back for another episode of the First and Tuna podcast. I'm your host, Tuna. This is your Northern California favorite home for all you Rams, Raiders, Niners, and Chargers fans alike. Whether you're a nerd like me and you just have to absorb as much football as possible and you need something local, or you're a noob, a newcomer, a Swiftie, whatever you want to call yourself, we've got content for you where every single week we dive into something basic about the game. I'm going to get you caught up. I'm going to get you to love the game as much as us nerds. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Man, I feel like I'm getting better at these intros. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Am I talking too much? Leave a comment below. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe to our content. Love you guys. You got us here on YouTube, Spotify. We've got our blog coming out. The first article was supposed to drop this past weekend. I scrapped it after reading my own writing. I scrapped the first one, changed the topic. First one is going to be coming out along with this video. Details are below. What is the blog? The blog is, if you guys remember, I think our second episode, we did a deep dive. I don't want to do video essay format, so I'm going to put it in writing for you folks. Yeah, we're calling this a group therapy session because I didn't really account for this crappy of a weekend of football. Group therapy because all four teams lost. Like I said, we cover the California fan base, Rams, Raiders, Niners, and Chargers, and they all lost. But on top of that, for me, if we're going to air out our grievances, Rams lost to the Steelers, and Steelers kind of suck. For a 4-2 team, they suck. So that was fun to watch. My Sacramento State Hornets, great matchup. They were number 4 in the nation, playing number 2 Montana State. Had some fun, went out there to home game. Did a little tailgate with friend of the show, Malik, and some other friends. And Sac State dropped the bag. They lost. Didn't look that great. And then my fantasy team lost. So if you are involved in as much football as me, you guys know that feeling where your team loses, maybe your college team loses, you're losing in fantasy. You start feeling like, man, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing to football. Like, do I even like the sport anymore? Am I just ready for basketball season? These were some real thoughts I was having Sunday. And if you're like me, let me know. Let me know if I'm alone or not. Those are my grievances. How about you guys? How you guys doing? This episode is brought to you by Folgers because it's what's in my cup to get through what has been a rough weekend of football. Not only that, we're going to try to find some positives and looking forward to these games coming up. And I'll wrap up. I think we got to cover something that's been talked about a bunch. It's a referee problem. Not to be that guy, but referees at the end of that Rams game, at the end of other games as well, Colts versus Browns, what was a great game that they had, ended up being ruined by some poor referee calls at the very end. The Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins game was the quote-unquote Super Bowl matchup, just because of two heavyweight contenders. That one gets called weird too, because the Dolphins are getting called for penalties. I think they have about 10 or 11 penalties. I mean, a little on the higher side. Pretty normal though. But the Eagles had 0 penalties the entire game. That means that the referees thought and or missed and thought that every single Eagles player played perfectly, which is a statistical impossibility. There's going to be at least one penalty, a holding, an illegal contact. There's going to be something. Refs decided, nope, they're perfect. So just very interesting. The conversation happening around the league right now, it's not just coming from fans, us salty fans that are saying, oh, that's not fair. Oh, they're cheating. The joke is, oh, they paid the refs off. It's actually a genuine conversation right now. So if you guys don't know, if we get a little bit deeper than just our complaints, referees are not truly full-time employees of the NFL. Majority, if not all, of referees are people with other careers. So these guys make, I think the average salary is $150,000 to $200,000 for an NFL referee, but a lot of these guys have other careers. One from the Colts game is a middle school teacher or middle school principal. I know, me being from Stockton, St. Mary's High School, I think the principal was an NFL referee for a long time. So yeah, these guys have other careers, which is mind-boggling just because of how important these games are on a weekly basis. The decisions that they have to make can clearly weigh the outcome of a game. But these guys aren't even full-time employees. The reason I think that's really important, Pat McAfee on his show, he brought up an interesting point. Like, you leave the door open for these guys to be influenced by outside pressure, especially in a world where gambling is becoming more and more prevalent in the NFL. I just think it's interesting that referees aren't full-time. It takes away from how much they weigh the game themselves. I'm not sure if it was a strategy back in the day to, hey, let's have these guys come in and be unbiased. I feel like it's creating some type of bias. I don't like knowing that these guys have no accountability. That's the other issue. Apart from these guys having a whole other world outside of this career to worry about, there's no accountability. Somebody can screw up all game. They can make just the worst calls. And all that happens at the end is not even publicly most of the time, but the NFL will admit to the teams that played, like, oh, hey, by the way, here's our list of penalties that we feel we messed up on. But it's done very private, very hush-hush. Referees aren't forced or mandated to talk to the public. They don't do interviews, post-game interviews like players do, so they can fuck up a game, right? Let's take the Colts and Browns game. We're gonna go outside of the California base because I don't want to appear biased just because I've got my own qualms with the Rams game and how that ended. Colts and Browns game was fantastic. It was probably the highlight of that morning. And Colts, being underdogs there, appear to have no chance against the number one defense in the league. They're scoring over 30 points. It's coming down to the wire. They're actually winning, and the Browns get the ball down in the goal line. And what appears to be a game-sealing sack and fumble recovery by the Colts gets overturned. The Browns get the ball back due to illegal contact downfield. Illegal contact, we kind of touched on it a little bit last week in our lesson for noobs. It's very close to holding. They deemed that a Colts player was holding one of the Browns receivers downfield, but then you look at the replay, there's no penalty. If anything, it almost looks like the Browns wide receiver should be flagged for offensive holding because he's actually wide open on the play. So that's one, just makes zero sense. You change the outcome of the game. The Colts have now won that game, but now you're saying, nope, never mind, Browns get the ball back at the one. So just little things like that where you're basically just giving a freebie up to the Browns because at that point, 2 plays prior, Colts have won the game. They get a fumble recovery, less than a minute left, game's over. And in back-to-back plays, you completely screw them by poor officiating. And it's not just my opinion or anybody else's opinion. It's factual because then the NFL and the referees, they go to the Colts and the Browns and they say, hey, we actually blew these calls. These last 2 penalties shouldn't have been called. What the fuck good does that do? It ruins the product on the field. And you guys know my pet peeve. I've said it for like 3 weeks now. Bad football. Bad football accounts for anything that's going to ruin the game. And that's poor officiating, or swayed officiating, or just officiating that's like, man, you're ruining the game. Plain and simple. Let's go to the Rams game now. Rams played poorly. I am in no way saying that this is why they lost. They honestly didn't play well enough to deserve to win that, which is very frustrating, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. The Rams are down by a touchdown. They're trying to get a stop on 4th down. It's 4th and 1. Steelers have the ball. What do? They line up in what everybody around the league is doing. Quarterback sneak, tush push, brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it. It's a pain in my ass. That's what I call that. Maybe that's what the quarterbacks call it too, because they get pushed from behind. Pain in the ass. Get it? No? All right. So, yeah, they go for quarterback sneak. They run the play. Clearly down way short of the 1st down. For you newbies, the yellow line and the blue line, they were a yard apart. He didn't even get close to the yellow line. Remember, we talked about what these markers are. You can see it clear as day. He's completely short. His knee fell earlier than where the ball actually landed. But even where he's laying down on the field, you can see he's fully short of even damn near where the ball started. Albeit I'll argue he almost lost yards. Line judge comes in, moves the ball forward. God knows, I don't know what he saw. They bring the chain gang out. If you guys don't know what a chain gang is, stay tuned in the next few minutes because we're going to go over that. Yeah, they bring the chains out, marks it, 1st down Steelers. But you can clearly see it's not even close. I was completely dumbfounded. Like, I'm gonna speak fan to fan to you guys. This is probably one of the most frustrated I had been in a long time watching the game. Not just because my team lost, but because I didn't understand what I was seeing. I felt like I was being lied to on TV, and I want an apology, refs. Joking. But no, really, what it came down to is to challenge a play for the coaches to throw the red flag and say, hey, I think the refs were wrong. Let's go ahead and replay that. When it's more than 2 minutes left at the end of the game, you have to have a timeout left. If you don't have a timeout left and there's more than 2 minutes left in the game, you can't challenge it. So because it was clearly that he was short and there was about 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock, not an automatic replay. If it's less than 2 minutes, any play that's deemed questionable or close, especially a first down, it's going to get automatically reviewed by the booth. Not in this case. Didn't even matter if the whole world can see, hey, it's short. Not a first down. Game over. Rams lose. Very frustrating. Just a shitty week of officiating, combined with all those facts I was telling you guys about them not being full-time. We are in an era of higher gambling, so it raises these suspicions, these questions when there's no accountability, there's no system in place that, hey, if this ref blows this game and he's completely unprofessional and just has a track record of this, what happens to him? What happens if you don't get ideal playoff games to ref, or you don't get any playoff games to ref? But if they blow the game, I mean, they get to go out there the next week and just go do the same thing. There's no repercussion for that. Whereas like players, if they screw up, if they, get a, roughing the passer penalty that's super aggressive, they're going to get fined. They're going to get talked about. If they perform poorly week after week after week, they're going to lose their spot. They're going to lose their job. Whereas the referees, they play just as big as impact on the game. There's no repercussion. So, long-winded. I know typically we try not to rant or give opinions on this podcast because, like I said, this isn't like really an opinion piece podcast by me, but this is a big narrative of the season. It's going to continue to be a narrative. It's important for you guys to understand it a little bit. There's a lot of chatter about it on other media sites to where people are giving their opinions. If we continue to talk about this, I'm going to do my best just to kind of spit the facts at you. But yeah, I think factually there needs to be some sort of, accountability system in place, and make them full-time. Like, hey, it sounds like a lot of money to be a referee, like, $200,000 plus, but NFL is super lucrative. It's a lot of money. They're in charge of these games. By all means, make as much money in the world. Hell, give them double. If making them full-time means they make $500,000 a year, by all means, it makes people care about it more. It leaves the door closed to any opportunities of outside influence like we're talking about right now. Make it a better product. There's plenty of money in the NFL. And for God's sakes, get rid of the goddamn chain gang. So now that we've got the ranting and crying out the way, let's go into reviewing this week. Like I said, I did not do very well myself in regards to picking. Me and Malik actually both went 6-6. Not very good. Kind of adding facts to what I was saying earlier, that it just overall wasn't a good week for sports bettors. This kind of counts for it. I missed half the games where typically me or Malik are probably picking about 75% correct. So a whole quarter of the way lower. 25% less. English is hard for me. I don't know what is going on. So we stand still here in the records. I'm down 2 games. We're going to catch up this week. I feel it. We're going to tie this up. We're going to catch up by 2 games, and we're going to feel good going into week 9. We are almost halfway through the season. I've got my own dog of the week. Dog of the week is all of our hopes and prayers because, damn it, we're all disappointed. No, seriously. My top dog of the week, Christian McCaffrey. This honestly was the easiest pick because if you look at all 4 teams that we cover, Rams, Raiders, Niners, Chargers, there wasn't really one big performer. Even if they did, they had negative stats too. There were some guys with big stats, but it was like kind of all garbage time. Didn't really impact the game as much as This guy did, Christian McCaffrey. He had 2 touchdowns. I think he's got the streak of, 17 consecutive games he scored a touchdown. If he does it one more week, he will tie the NFL record with some guy from the 50s. I don't know the name. Yeah, the dude's just good. I think he's got like a slight tear in an oblique. Dude's a dog, honestly. Congratulations, 49ers, for having this dog on your team. Hopefully he can keep it going, get healthy, and stay healthy the rest of the season. Dude's a dog. This lesson has been brought to you by Folgers. It's what's in my cup. I just make drip coffee. Folgers, sponsor me. That's cold. Let's take a look at our lesson of the week. Like I hinted at before, I ranted about it in our officiating coverage that we just did a minute ago. What is a chain gang? These goofy looking yellow and black zebras that are on the sidelines. They carry these big orange posts. Any football game, NFL, college, high school, flag football, not flag football, Pop Warner. Yeah, hell, they're at Pop Warner games. These guys will be out there, and what are they actually doing? Plain and simple, they are the visual cue of how the referees and the players keep track of what's actually happening on the field. Remember, we talked about the first down line, the line of scrimmage. When you're watching at home, you have that pleasure, that benefit of having the yellow line and the blue line added onto the field for you by the television crew. Sorry to tell you this, guys, if you haven't noticed. In person, those lines aren't actually there. They're fake. So how do the referees and the players know where they have to go? You have the chain crew. They follow the action all the way down the field, working in tandem with the referees. A little bit of a medieval system. I believe it should be upgraded a little bit. Whole other conversation. I'm going to try not to rant during this lesson. But who are they and what do they do? They help the reps and players see 3 main things. First one, the offense's starting point. That's the line of scrimmage. Line of scrimmage is where the ball is currently. Doesn't matter if it's at the 5 or it's at the 50. Where's the line of scrimmage? One guy's got a cool little post. That's a big orange one. He's like, hey, we're starting the ball right here. Second thing they do, the guy with the yardage marker is showing the first down line. So the yellow line that we see on TV, there is a guy actually standing out there showing, hey, this is where you guys got to get to. Big old target for them. And the last one, the guy with the number is showing what down it is. Down, remember, means attempt. Is it the first down or attempt? Is it second attempt, third down, fourth down? There's no fifth down, although we've had issues like that before because these chain crews will mess up as well. Why do I think it's a little bit outdated? Take a look at this medieval technology. So the 2 guys carrying the first down marker and the line of scrimmage marker, there is a chain connected. So this is why we call them the chain crew, the chain gang. So when you get into a situation like the Rams were in, hey, this is very close. You know, typically we like to eyeball it. Yes, the referees eyeball it. Because remember, there's no yellow line, so you got all this action going on, and the referees got to see where the ball carrier landed. Where's the ball? Where's the first down marker? They kind of eyeball it. Most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, you can see clearly, like, okay, we're here. Let's move forward. But in those instances like that end of the Rams game, it's too close to call. So what do? We kind of eyeball, hey, I think the ball finished here. Let me put it down. And then let's have these guys on the sideline run out to the middle of the field. It's about 20 to 30 yards, depending on which hash they're on. And spread. The chain is exactly 10 yards, so they spread themselves out from where the line of scrimmage was to where the first down is. So you can just kind of already think about human error. Like if I told you to measure something without a accurate measure, like a measuring tape, and you just kind of went like this, you know, this is guy math right here. This is about this far out. You guys know what I'm talking about. And then you walk it across the house to try to see if it fits against the wall. You're like, that's good enough. That's about what happens. We're eyeballing a lot of things. Something as important as, hey, did the ball even cross where these guys need to go? Long rant. Sorry, I told you I wouldn't do it. Yeah, that's my lesson for this week. That's what the chain gang does. So that way you see these goofy guys standing with large orange cones or markers on the sideline. That's what they're doing. Let's get into these reviews. We're going to keep a little shorter this week. These were ugly games. None of these teams wants. I don't have a lot of positives for you guys, and I try to bring the positivity. Remember, we're trying to love the game, but when you love something that's a strong emotion, you can sometimes feel complete opposite. For my married listeners out there, that's all I gotta say. You love your significant other, but man, they probably piss you off sometimes. For us football nerds, it's about as strongly as we feel for our favorite football teams. So, in the first, Rams, Steelers, let's get this out the way so I can stop throwing up in my mouth.
It's Pickett, the sneak, and he looks to be short initially, but did he get that ball across the line to gain? My goodness, just past the line to gain.
That was the final play. We've talked about it ad nauseum here already. Rams completely dropped what was probably one of the more winnable games on the schedule coming up next few weeks. As we're getting closer to the middle of the season, this is where you start making sure you pick up these easier wins when you're making a playoff push. Everybody looks at the end of the season like, oh, you got to win these last games. That's cool, but you have to start getting on the streak now. And when you have difficult opponents like the Rams, still have to play the Niners one more time at the end of the year. Man, when you're playing a team like the Steelers, you have to win this to stack up these wins to help your chances at making that last playoff spot. Why are the Steelers looked at as a beatable opponent? Well, their offense hasn't thrown for over, I think, 350 yards, which is pretty right at average, above average for NFL standards. They haven't thrown for over that in some time, in some years. Their offense is pretty poor. They're very boring. Offense is averaging less than 2 touchdowns a game. The way the Steelers win games, and I heard this, I think, on the Pat McAfee show, they don't race you to the finish line. They don't actively even try to beat you. It seems like their method is just to not drown before you. They play really good defense. Their offense is crap and it's slow and boring, but by God, they are going to wait for you to make mistakes, and they're somehow going to win. They're 4-2 right now, and what the Rams have been doing all season long. Remember, we talk about season-long narratives. I don't get into just stats. This isn't ESPN, but the narrative for the Rams has been they play to the level of their competition. When they played the Eagles and the Niners, they played very, very well. When they play these lower-performing teams or teams that aren't doing very well right now, this game, Steelers aren't a great team. Rams played worse than them. You get that because of the youth on the team. We talked about it a bunch. It's a very, very young core. I've hyped up some of the rookies. Hell, the rookie wide receiver is probably going to win Rookie of the Year because he's that good. But the opposite of that, the counter to that, you get mistakes. These guys don't know what they don't know. They're not going to bring the same consistency every single week. There's still things that they're learning. So the Steelers kind of took advantage of that. What makes me sick is the fact that they don't pass it very well. I don't think Kenny Pickett's a top half of the league quarterback. But then in the fourth quarter, he just completely diced up the Rams defense. They went up and down the field at will. The running backs even looked better than they have been. I've been making jokes for weeks with my friends that Najee Harris just shouldn't even have a job. And he looked like a phenomenal running back. He was running hard, breaking tackles. He was jumping over guys. It was, for this game, what it was supposed to be, of a coming out party. The Rams are going to show they're a playoff team, and then they performed this poorly. Man, it was hard to stomach and hard to watch. Then when it comes down to the end of the poor officiating, putting the cherry on top of what was a struggle game to watch. Shit, man, that was tough. Next on their slate, they've got the Cowboys next week in Dallas, and that right there is a playoff team. They're expected to at least be a wild card spot, if not fight the Eagles for the NFC East playoff spot. Really put up or shut up time for the Rams. They've dropped to 3-4. Going to 3-5 is, I don't want to say a death sentence, but I think it's less than a 10% chance that a 3-5 team even makes the playoffs. So we're going to see what this team is made of. I really would like to see the youth step up. I know they've been inconsistent, but what do inconsistent teams do? They have a low and then they have a high. I think that's what's going to happen. They were high 2 weeks ago, low this week, and now next week they're going to be high. You guys get that? High, low, wave, doing this. You guys got it. a big note that I've got from this one. I had a conversation with a friend about whether Matthew Stafford is still a good quarterback, and I think he's for what he's dealing with, he's been amazing. I don't look at the interceptions. He's always thrown interceptions his whole career. That's what a gunslinger does. But he's put in a position where he has to be perfect because other quarterbacks are allotted the chance. Let's say a la Brock Purdy. His team is amazing around him. He can go and throw an interception or two, and they're still going to have a chance to win because they have a bigger margin of error. They can make a few mistakes, but the talent around them is good enough to compensate for that. Rams are not. They're young, and they're missing a lot of talent. Like, on paper, this isn't the most talented team, even in the division. So you make one mistake as a quarterback, or you guys have one quarter that's slow. That right there can basically be the game. If you look back to the Cardinals game, they played poorly for a whole half. Only reason they were able to win that game is because the Cardinals did the same thing. They played poorly their second half. You can't count on the other team to be bad every single week. You got to be able to perform well. It's a parity is very real in this league. So you can't hope that your quarterback is going to be perfect, man. He's going to have a bad game. You got to rely on the rest of the team to pick him up. My take on this, my grade for the Rams this week, C-. They get a C-. You guys pass as a professional team, but that's about it. Chargers and Chiefs.
That ball should have been snapped 3 seconds ago.
Again with traffic. Intercepted. It's Brian Cook to close out the game. The Chiefs defense.
Man, they never really seemed like they had a shot in this game. The defense didn't do anything at all. They held the run game in check a little bit. It didn't matter because Patrick Mahomes had over 400 yards. Travis Kelce had almost 200 yards. Nobody could cover him whatsoever. They had us, unfortunately, looking at Taylor Swift an ungodly amount of times on the television because he was catching so many passes. He catches a pass, they go to Taylor Swift. So thank you for that, Chargers. You guys forced us to look at more Taylor Swift. This is your fault. But yeah, this game was kind of just the perfect example again of what the Chargers have been. Super talented. I think Justin Herbert's great, but more interceptions that he threw. They couldn't get the run game going. Joshua Kelly, the backup running back, had a big run, and that made his stats look good. But their starting running back, Austin Eckler, I think he's still not 100% from his ankle injury that he was out for 4 weeks prior. So he had some inconsistencies there. Justin Herbert also threw 2 interceptions, one that you guys just saw at the end of the game for them. Keenan Allen didn't have a big game either. So you have a very erratic, inconsistent system on the offense, which has been a recipe for them in the games they have won. But overall, they were just outclassed. Chiefs just looked like the better team. Didn't really even watch too much of this game as it was on. I watched Red Zone most of the time just because I kind of had a feeling like they're playing in Kansas City. Kansas City's performing well. And then once I saw Travis Kelce racking up those yards in that first quarter, man, it was pretty much over from there. It didn't feel like this one was close. They didn't get blown out, but like I said, it didn't feel close. I'm going to jump into your guys' season-long narrative. This is about the coach. I don't think you guys have a good coach, nor do I think he's going to last the entire season. I don't think it's if he gets fired. I think it's when. You guys got the Bears next. I know the Bears just beat the Raiders, but that was kind of a bottom 5 team versus another bottom 5 team. Anything can happen. Neither team's super talented right now. If the Chargers somehow lose to the Bears this upcoming week, I think your coach is fired. Who steps up in the rest of the season, whether it's Kellen Moore, whether it's your guys' DC, I don't know. But I don't think he makes it out of I don't think he makes it back on the bus or out of the facility with his job intact if they end up dropping the ball to the Bears, because the Bears are not talented or as much as other teams. They're playing a Division II starting quarterback right now he's a rookie. And he looked okay, pretty good against the Raiders. But yeah, you guys can't have this done. I think what's happening, your guys' defense is not doing well at all. For so many stars on that defense, it's been very underwhelming. Derwin James playing safety. Is it Joey Bosa? Yeah, Joey Bosa. I get the Bosas mixed up because you got Nick Bosa on the Niners. Joey Bosa, I don't even see his name ever talked about. Khalil Mack, he had that one game with 6 sacks against the Raiders, but like I said, it's against the Raiders. How much does that really count? He hasn't really done anything since then. They got rid of J.C. Jackson. They traded him back because he wasn't performing. I just don't know what's happening, man. I know it's Patrick Mahomes, but other teams have been able to at least hold him in check or put some pressure on him so that way he's not just having an MVP game. And here he is looking like a potential repeat of an MVP against this defense. I think something's got to change. I think this is also an ownership issue too. I think it's very hard to build a culture in a team when you're kind of the little brother in the situation. They don't have their own stadium. They share a stadium with the Rams. I don't care if that's they're co-owners. They have the title Los Angeles. This is the San Diego Chargers. I don't think things will get right and consistent in the culture of the team until they go back to San Diego, whether that's ownership changing their tune and building some new facilities down there or selling the team. For us that are from Stockton, that's the Spanos family that owns the Chargers. We're very familiar with them. I won't get into Stockton's personal feelings. Sorry for you Chargers fans. Like I said, looking ahead, I would love to see your guys' defense just completely have a coming out party, like 3 or 4 turnovers against the Bears, because it is highly doable. Like I said, the Bears starting quarterback played Division II. This is going to be his second game playing. I mean, if you guys are this talented, you should make him have to get benched halfway through the game. That's what you guys need to turn the season around. Anything less than that, even if it's a close game, you guys win by like a last-second field goal, I think the coach's job is at risk here. So that's my take. It's my hot take. Raiders, Bears, let's get stepped up with some stepping up.
Sidelines won't suffice.
Hoyer's long pass of the day is 15 yards, and it's intercepted, picked off by Jalen Johnson. Johnson, untouched for the touchdown.
Raiders fans, how you guys feeling? I really want to do a wellness check on you guys. I'm concerned. We're not even halfway through the season, and it seems like the house has burned down. You guys were playing Brian Hoyer at quarterback, who I did not know he was still in the league. Your Jimmy Garoppolo obviously having that back issue. Aiden O'Connell, the rookie you picked up in the draft this year, was dealing with a little bit of injury as well. So you go to your third string, Brian Hoyer. Man, and he looked about how Brian Hoyer should. Threw 2 interceptions. Terrible passing percentage. Not a lot of yards. No run game from the Raiders, too. This is a very boring game if you're a Raiders fan. Probably pulling your hair out. Hopefully, you got a hair appointment coming up, so that way you get that fixed. But, man, for a Bears team that they played with their hair on fire, they kind of had nothing to lose. They knew they were playing another team that hasn't been performing like they should be in the league, and they rallied behind their rookie quarterback, which it can go one of two ways in this league. From what I've seen, if you throw another rookie quarterback into the mix midway through the season, you get a situation where like the whole house burns down and just looks terrible because, man, he's lost, he struggles, and the team loses motivation. Or the team has some good leadership somewhere, somehow on that team, and they rally behind them. They're like, hey, man, we don't give a shit how bad you do. We don't need you to win this game. Let's just go out and have fun and make this shit happen. And that's what the Bears did. They blew out the Raiders in this game. Fun home game for Chicago fans. Terrible for the Raiders, and we're gonna go right back to beating this dead horse that we talked about last week. I don't see this Raiders team seeing consistent success or having fun until one, got to be a coaching change. That's a automatic. Outside of Brandon Staley in Los Angeles, I don't see Coach McDaniels making it out of this season. I think the players have had enough. There's been rumors coming out of the Raiders organization that the players are meeting and expressing their discontent for Coach McDaniels. I don't know how you guys are surprised. If you don't know the history of Coach McDaniels, he was a longtime assistant for Bill Belichick out in New England. So that means he was the offensive coordinator for Tom Brady for a number of years. So he gets looked at as, he's got to be a phenomenal coach because he coached under Belichick and coached Tom Brady. Not really the case. And so is the case with a lot of old assistants from Bill Belichick's teams. They haven't really performed very well. Coach McDaniels had a stint in Denver before. That was terrible. That's looked at as one of the worst coaching performances in the last decade or so. It's kind of a repeat. I don't know. There's nothing about his tenure in Denver or kind of how he comes across towards players. It seems like that the Raiders organization had a lot of faith in him. I don't know if they had any better hires or any chances they could have taken, but this is what they decided to go with, and this is the product that they're getting. Not really a surprise to us outside of the Vegas fan base, but I don't think he makes it out of this year. I don't know. It's another situation. It's not if but when. I think he gets fired this year. I actually don't know who the OC and DC are for the Raiders. One of them is going to have to step up in the interim, and the Raiders are going to go right back to the coaching carousel of figuring out who's going to coach this team. And then that raises questions on who's going to be the quarterback for the team, who's going to stay, what's going to happen with Davante Adams. Everybody's talking about, is Davante Adams even going to stay on the team? Is he going to get traded because the team's a dumpster fire? And what a lot of dumpster fire teams do is trade off their best players to get draft capital and basically wave the white flag on the season and look ahead to the next year to rebuild. I don't know, man. This can go in two ways. This can end up being a complete shit show for the last 9 to 10 weeks of the season. Figure it out. Get a little frisky, get a little feisty once you get Jimmy G back, and be like an annoyingly scary team to play because you guys are fighting back for a playoff spot. You still have the chance to go one of two ways. What history tells me is that I don't have faith in your guys' head coach. And the big picture, we talked about this last week. Comes down to ownership. I know Mark Davis is super happy because his WNBA team just won the championship, but man, he's regarded as one of the worst owners in the league, just because of this seems to be a consistent. There isn't a winning product that they put out to the NFL. I would love to see this offseason. I know we're looking way far ahead, but obviously ownership doesn't change just like that. It takes super negative stuff. It takes like damn near criminal behavior to get ousted as an owner. And I don't see Mark Davis passing away, so you can't hope on that. Don't hope anybody passes away. I'm joking. But I hope they bring in somebody to help run the organization from a quote-unquote owner standpoint, like a consultant, director of football operations, something like that to help change this culture. So that's the way I see it. I think if it stays this way, I think your coach gets fired. I think you guys are going to have a lot of questions before the season even ends, but I hope it doesn't, and I hope you guys get new ownership in some form or fashion in the offseason. Monday Night Football.
Purdy steps through, floats it, he's picked, and that's it. Bynum gets another.
We had the Niners and the Vikings. It ended up being a really good game. Probably not for you Niners fans because, one, you guys lost. Two, it wasn't the normal performance you guys are used to seeing on the field. You guys are used to scoring 30-plus points a game. Outside of these last 2 weeks, you guys dropped 2 in a row now. So this is the only time I'll be a hater right now, is that this was the best part of my weekend. Like I told you, all my other teams lost. My fantasy team sucked. And then the Niners lost in prime time. And I was so happy. Thank you, 49ers. Thank you for giving us hope of happiness. But really, it's a really good game, despite how you guys may think I feel. Vikings had a hell of a performance. Niners defense looked very human, but you have to give credit to Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins. The dude is very, very talented. He's really good. Contrary to the popular belief, he performs pretty well in primetime. He had over 300 yards, I think 3 or 4 touchdowns. Looked really, really good. Won them this game. Like, they don't win this game if they have a different quarterback besides Kirk Cousins on this night at this time. And on top of that, the Vikings defense stepped up. They forced 2 interceptions on Brock Purdy. They held the run game in check a little bit. You guys weren't running the ball down their throat like you guys are used to. I'm not sure if that's a little bit of a combination of, well, actually it is, a combination of a lot of things. I get it, Niners fans. You guys are missing Deebo Samuel. That's a huge offensive piece that you guys run a lot of things through. He brings a lot of attitude to the team. You're missing your left tackle, Trent Williams. Again, one of your best players, and brings the attitude to the run game. And Christian McCaffrey is not 100%. Although he looked great, you have to think that there was a little bit of lingering soreness and pain because he was dealing with they say sore, strained, something like that, where they weren't sure if he was going to play. It might be partially torn. You don't know. Brock Purdy, with all that being said, I think a lot more was put on his shoulders. He looked not as good, looked very human when it got down to it. So he threw 2 interceptions, and now he's in concussion protocol because on a quarterback sneak, he appeared to take a huge shot to the head, like a helmet-to-helmet that didn't get seen at the time. I didn't even see it. It's on the plane. He was starting to experience some symptoms, so he's now going to be out for next week in place of Sam Darnold at starting quarterback for the Niners. But yeah, when it got down to it, you guys had a chance at this game. Running down the clock, under 2 minutes. You guys haven't been looking that great, but you could still get out of Minnesota, stealing a win from a conference rival. Start moving the ball down the field. You guys get within close to field goal range, and this is where a little bit of Brock Purdy's still has some inexperience. Although he's got a great winning record, the conversation, remember, has always been, well, he hasn't had to do anything. Like, the team's great, and it looked that way. So it's kind of a good and bad because of 2 reasons of this system that the Niners are playing with. The system is great as long as the talent is there and you guys stay healthy. It makes Brock Purdy look really, really good as long as he's doing his job. But when it comes down to, hey, take more of the weight of the game on your shoulders, go and win this game like you want a star quarterback to do, and he wasn't able to get it done. Is this because of he just can't do it? He's actually not that good. It's a little bit of everything. Don't listen to the bigger media outlets that are saying like, oh, we were wrong about Brock Purdy. Shut up. You can't just make broad generalizations about players. The product has been on the field. Like, you've seen what he's been doing. It's regardless of what the system's like or how easy it is, this sport's hard as fuck. Playing quarterback is the hardest job in professional sports. To be able to do what they're asking him to do on a Niners offense, man, you still got to do it at a high level. He's smart as hell. He's talented as hell. This is the first time I've seen where he's been in a situation where they're asking him, go win this game for us. Go drop back and be our star quarterback. This is where the system of Kyle Shanahan plays against your quarterback, right? Because let's talk about big narratives for the Niners, right? Niners are like 0-30-something under the Kyle Shanahan regime when they're down by a touchdown or more in the fourth quarter. It's like, well, yeah, they're losing. But you look at what happens when you're losing, right? Who do you rely on to help you come back at the end? You're hoping you have got a really fucking good quarterback. Duh, you need talent and coaching. But really, what comes down to, can your quarterback get the job done? Do you even feel like you have a chance? When you've got a Patrick Mahomes, when you've got a Kirk Cousins, hell, when you've got a Matthew Stafford, if you're within a touchdown down at the end, like, you feel like you've got a chance. I'll tell you, when I was watching the Rams and Steelers game, all I was saying, it was, as poorly as the game's gone, if we get the ball back with a minute left, I feel like my team can win because you have that much faith in your quarterback. Right now, 49ers fan base seems to be losing some faith in Brock Purdy, but hey, this is the first time he's been in this situation. Being 0-1 in his career in this situation ain't the end of the world. But yeah, a combination of his system is not really built around him to be in that situation. When they're down by a touchdown or whatever it is, to come back at the end of the game, especially with all these injuries, like you're playing without a full deck. So it's going to be already challenging. And on top of that, his stats went in the tank after the hit where he appeared to get his concussion. It's not confirmed, but it appears like that's the best, most likely time where he got hurt. A little bit worrisome for the 49ers that the season's not going to go perfect. No team is healthy right now. Every team that we cover here is dealing with some injuries, some issues. Chargers have had some O-line issues. Rams, O-line issues as well. Hell, we were missing our starting receiver for the first month of the season. Who's the other team? The Raiders. Raiders are obviously super hurt. They're missing their quarterback. But the good teams find a way to get it done. The Niners are one of the most talented teams in the league. I don't think that this is going to be a situation to worry about. You lost 2 games. You lost at home to the Cleveland Browns, who are a number 1 defense, and then you are on the road to the Browns, and then you lost at Minnesota against a talented quarterback in prime time. So it's a little bit different. This isn't just a Monday morning or Sunday morning game. And then you're asking your quarterback to do things that he hasn't necessarily had the opportunity to have experience in doing and learning from his mistakes. My take on this is that I think he'll learn from this pretty quickly. It seems like he picks up things very fast. That's been one of his talents. I think the next time he's put in a situation where he's got to go down and win the game, I don't think he throws an interception at the end. I think he can be trusted to win you guys a game. That record of Kyle Shanahan being 0-something or the other of not winning games when you're down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, I think that'll change this year because of Brock Purdy. I think you guys would be fine. I'm not sure what the timetable is for you guys to get back Debo and Trent Williams. I think Trent Williams is supposed to be back. I think it's up in the air about Debo Samuel. He's got a hairline fracture somewhere in his shoulder, so that remains to be seen. But my only letdown from this one was the Niners defense. Not sure what happened. I think I called out first week that the most suspect part of the defense was the defensive backfield. I know you got a safety Hufanga who's really talented, but I think he's kind of a liability in coverage sometimes, and your corners aren't that good. Niners have got the Bengals at home coming up next. This is a Sunday afternoon game. That's going to be fun to watch. You got Joe Burrow coming into San Jose, Santa Clara, damn near Livermore, because you guys aren't even in San Francisco. But, yeah, you get Joe Burrow coming to town. This is a really good test. I'm calling this one a game of the week. I think this is going under the radar because of the injuries that the Niners are facing. But I think this is the best matchup. Like, I'm actually really excited to watch this game. Yeah, let's see what you got, Niners. That is our wrap-up for the week. We got mid-season. God, I can't talk. We're going to be halfway through the season after this slate of games this weekend. So what we're going to have our mid-season grades. We're going to have our mid-season awards. So we're talking about who is our MVP so far, who's our shittiest players awards as well. Our what the fucks, we like to call them. We did that quarter of the way through the season. We're going to do that halfway as well. Thanks for listening, guys, to our group therapy session. Hopefully all of our teams can recover. I'd love to see a bounce back, man. I'd love to see, since all of our teams lost this last weekend, I'd love to see all our teams win. It'd be nice to come in here and have an opposite episode. Sorry, this was kind of a negative show. We had a lot to cover, but some juicy stuff with the referees. I'm curious of what your guys' takes are. I'm always looking for interaction. Follow us on Instagram. Leave a comment below if you guys haven't followed, liked, shared. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you again to Corndoggy LOL for providing the beautiful art on this show. Love you for that. Shout out to friend of the show, Malik, for taking it easy on me with his picks. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys for being here. We're almost halfway through the season. You're halfway almost done with me through this year, guys. Thank you for sticking around, and I will see you next week.